It was a cold, crisp dawn as Chief Eleanor Vance stepped out of her midnight blue sedan, the only sound the crunch of her polished leather shoes on the gravel. Her first day as the newly appointed head of the Viridian City Police Department was meant to be a quiet start. She wore a simple charcoal pantsuit, a stark contrast to the uniform that would soon carry her new insignia. 2 decades of tireless work had brought her to this moment. From a driven military police officer to a decorated detective and, finally, a leader of the nation's most troubled law enforcement agency, her plan for the day was simple. Get to her office early, review the morning reports, and greet her new team with a sense of quiet authority. But as she neared the staff entrance, a sudden, heavy silence fell. The air grew thick with a palpable tension. "Halt right there!" A voice boomed from behind her. Eleanor turned slowly. She was met by a trio of officers walking toward her with purpose. At the lead was Officer Brandon Hayes, his face a mask of suspicion, a hand resting on his service weapon. Behind him, Officer Chloe Sterling watched with a bored, almost hostile expression, while Officer Mark Davies looked uncomfortably at his feet. "This is a restricted area," Hayes said, his tone dripping with authority he clearly believed she didn't possess. "You need to move along." Eleanor remained calm. "I have business inside," she stated quietly. "I'm here for work." Hayes's eyes, full of unspoken judgment, swept over her. "Work?" he scoffed, a sneer playing on his lips. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but you're not on the staff manifest. This isn't a shortcut to the city hall." Sterling stepped forward, a patronizing smile on her face. "Listen, honey, if you need to file a report, the public entrance is on the other side. This is for officers only." "I am an officer," Eleanor said, her voice steady. Both Hayes and Sterling let out short, humorless laughs. "Right," Hayes said, shaking his head. "And I'm the president. Got any ID to back up that claim?" Eleanor reached into her jacket pocket, her movements deliberate and slow. She withdrew her official credentials and held them out. "My name is Chief Eleanor Vance. This is my badge." Hayes barely glanced at it, dismissing it with a flick of his wrist. "That's a fake. A pretty good one. I'll give you that, but a fake nonetheless." The mockery was a well-practiced routine. Eleanor's voice remained even. "It's real." "Sure it is." Hayes's voice rose, attracting the attention of a man walking a dog across the street. The man discreetly pulled out his phone. "I've seen your kind before. Trying to gain unauthorized access to a secure location with forged credentials. That's a felony. A big one. I'm placing you under arrest." Eleanor's eyes locked onto Hayes, then Sterling. Her gaze was not a threat. It was an assessment. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. "Lady, I don't know what game you're playing," Hayes said, taking a step closer. "But it ends now. You're on police property with fake credentials. You're getting arrested." Eleanor didn't move. She didn't flinch. She simply looked at him with an unwavering gaze that made the bravado on his face begin to crack. "I'm going inside now," she said calmly, her words a statement of fact, not a request. "You'll understand soon enough." She walked past the 3 officers as if they were statues. "Hayes," stunned by her audacity, called after her. "Don't you walk away from me. I gave you a lawful order." Eleanor paused, her head slightly turned, just enough to acknowledge his words. "I haven't done anything wrong," she stated. "Refusing to comply is obstruction. That's grounds for arrest." Hayes's face was turning red with frustration. "Do you treat all women like this?" Eleanor asked, finally turned to face them completely. "Or just the black ones?" The question was a punch. Sterling's sneer vanished. Hayes's face went from red to an icy white. Davies, who had been trying to shrink into background, took a small, involuntary step back. "You're just trying to stall," Hayes stammered, his confidence now a fragile facade. "We'll let the desk sergeant sort this out. And when we find out you lied, you're going to jail." Eleanor's gaze flickered to his name tag, and then to his badge number. She committed the details to memory, not as a threat, but as data. She then calmly walked to the staff door, opened it, and disappeared inside. The soft click of the door closing behind her seemed to echo in the sudden, tense silence. Davies finally spoke, his voice a quiet whisper. That didn't feel right. Wouldn't feel right. Hayes snapped, trying to regain control. We did our job. We caught someone trying to trespass. But what if she wasn't? Davies' question hung in the air, unanswered, 8 a.m. sharp. A new order went out over the PA system. All personnel to the main briefing room. Immediately. The order was unusual. Briefings were typically reserved for patrol officers, but today every officer, from detectives to sergeants and even administrative staff, was called. The room was packed with 25 officers, the tension thick and unyielding. Conversations died as the door to the briefing room opened. Eleanor Vance walked in, but she wasn't in her charcoal suit. She was in full dress uniform. The gold stars on her collar shone, catching the light. Her badge gleamed, a stark, unmistakable symbol of authority. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Hayes, sitting in the third row, went utterly pale. Sterling's jaw dropped, her earlier arrogance wiped clean from her face. Davies, in the back, simply closed his eyes and shook his head, a wave of dread washing over him. Eleanor walked to the front of the room. She didn't need to ask for their attention. She commanded it just by her presence. "Good morning," she said, her voice clear and strong, echoing off the walls. "I'm Chief Eleanor Vance, and as of today, I'm in command of this department." A pin could have dropped and been heard. No one moved. No one spoke. "I know some of you weren't expecting me," she continued, her eyes finding Hayes in the crowd. He was now staring at the floor, his face a mixture of embarrassment and rising fury. "And some of you might have questions about my qualifications." She paused, letting the silence stretch, before continuing, her tone hardening. "Let's be clear about something. I didn't get this job because of my race, my gender, or any other factor. I got it because I earned it. 20 years of service, a clean record, and leadership roles in 3 other departments speak for themselves." She walked toward the projector and switched on a slide. It displayed a grim set of statistics. High crime rates, excessive use of force complaints, and abysmally low community trust ratings. "These numbers aren't just statistics," Eleanor said. "They are a symptom of a deep-seated problem. A problem that has fostered a culture of us versus them, of suspicion and bias. The problem is here." Her gaze swept the room. "And it's a problem we're going to fix." Another slide appeared, showing a simple quote from the department's code of conduct. "Character is who you are when no one is watching." "My brother, Marcus, was a police officer," Eleanor said, her voice softening for the first time. "He was a good officer. He embodied this very motto every day. But when he reported an incident of excessive force, his career was destroyed. He was ostracized, targeted, and eventually forced to leave the force he loved. He chose integrity over conformity." She then clicked to a final slide. It was a simple question in bold letters. "Whose side are you on?" "I'm not here to punish past mistakes," Eleanor said, "but I am here to ensure they never happen again. I'm implementing mandatory bias training, a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination, and a new initiative to rebuild trust with the community, starting with regular town hall meetings. Those who cannot adapt to this new culture will find themselves out of a job. I'd rather have a small department of good officers than a large department of bad ones." She looked at Hayes once more, the unspoken message clear. "But for those of you who want to be part of the solution, who want to do what is right, you will have my unwavering support." Eleanor then turned and walked out, leaving a room full of officers to ponder the choice she had laid before them. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of both progress and resistance. Eleanor met with community leaders, held the first of many town hall meetings, and began the process of retraining the entire department. Miller, the nervous officer from the parking lot, was among the first to volunteer for new initiatives. He approached Eleanor with a mix of shame and a newfound determination. "Chief Vance," he said, standing in her office, "I want to apologize for what happened that morning. I should have spoken up. I want to be better." Eleanor nodded. "You have an opportunity now, Officer Davies. The question is, what will you do with it?" Davies began to assist her, becoming her most trusted ally. He brought her folders filled with reports and complaints that had been buried by the previous administration. He revealed a pattern of misconduct that went far beyond Hayes and Sterling. Meanwhile, Hayes and Sterling were suspended, pending an internal investigation. They were furious, but their rage was a familiar sign of a system under threat. They saw themselves not as wrongdoers, but as martyrs being punished for upholding the old way of life. The mayor, Stephen Caldwell, was not pleased. He called Eleanor, his voice strained and formal. "Chief Vance, this video from a parking lot. It's gone viral. The city council is receiving calls. They want to know why you're creating a public relations nightmare." Eleanor listened patiently. "Mr. Mayor, the nightmare was created by 3 of your officers who racially profiled their own chief on her first day. My job is to fix it, not to cover it up. I need you to stay quiet," the mayor insisted. "Let our PR team handle this. The last thing we need is more attention." Eleanor's resolve solidified. She thought of her brother Marcus and the price he paid for his integrity. "I can't do that, Mr. Mayor. My badge isn't just a symbol of authority. It's a promise to the community, and I intend to keep it." She hung up and immediately called the city's top news station. Within a month, the state attorney general's office was involved. A full-scale civil rights investigation was launched. The mayor, facing pressure, was forced to publicly support the investigation, though his private frustration was evident. Hayes and Sterling were formally charged and, after a series of legal battles, were fired, but their dismissal was only the beginning. The information that Miller had gathered and shared with Eleanor was just the tip of a very large and very dark iceberg. The corruption was far deeper than anyone had imagined. It wasn't just a handful of officers. It was a vast network that had been quietly operating for years, involving high-ranking officials within the department. The deeper Eleanor dug, the more she realized that her brother's case was not an isolated incident. He had uncovered a similar network, and they had silenced him for it. The city was not just dealing with bad cops. It was dealing with a criminal enterprise disguised as a police department. Eleanor was now a public figure, celebrated by some, demonized by others. She was seen as a hero by activists and a radical threat by the police union. But as she sat in her office, the stacks of folders and documents growing taller, she knew the real fight was just beginning. She had to expose the entire network, but she couldn't do it alone. The very people she was supposed to trust were part of the problem. She looked at a coded report on her desk, a cryptic message from a seemingly random file that had been buried in the archives. It was a message from her brother, a final, desperate attempt to blow the whistle. It was a trail of breadcrumbs leading to the very top. Eleanor picked up the file, and a grim smile touched her lips. This wasn't just about police reform anymore. This was about uncovering the truth about her brother's death. She knew it would be a long, lonely, and dangerous road. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. She had her brother's voice, a ghost in the machine, guiding her. And with that, she knew exactly what she had to do.